Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Gym Owners Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Stone. Over there's John Fairbanks. How you doing, John?
Greetings, sir.
This week's subject we're going to talk about is how everything changes. Public perception changes, technological tools evolve, the internet changes, social media changes, everything changes, and how that affects your business, not only from a marketing standpoint, which so much of the fitness industry, the business side of it, the business coaching is all marketing leads, marketing leads. That changes and evolves greatly. Businesses that used to be relevant, or their strategies that they used to do, they're still pushing the same shit. What used to work doesn't always work. Now, what's old will always be new at some point, but this is not the way that things are forever in this industry. So we're going to get into some things that have shifted and what you can do to avoid falling into some of those pitfalls. So before we get started, go to gymownersrevolution.com or go into the show notes in our description here and go to the Facebook group. Make sure you get enjoying that. If you own a gym, if you're a personal trainer, if you're about to own a gym and you're interested in kind of learning more and immersing yourself in some of the subjects we talk about, get into that Facebook group. Links in the description. Follow the show at the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram. John is JBanksFL, and I am Tyler Effin Stone on Instagram. Let's get to it, John.
Let's shit on some headlines, Ty.
Let's shit on some headlines. The first one, the one I want to talk about first is this is going to touch on coaching, training methodology a little bit as well, but this is finding things that you see on research and shit like this now, like on the internet. Now, there's just too much of it. There's all too much of it. It's a subject we've talked about on this show and on other shows, but there's now so much information on how you should train or could train, and a lot of nutrition, and a lot of that stuff goes directly to the consumer, the people who aren't currently working with you or maybe are interested in working with you. Your job now as a coach isn't to just like be the person who can like work somebody out and help them with their food stuff. Now, most of that job is in a polite, tactful way, putting to rest or addressing a lot of the shit that they're seeing and reading that they think they should do. So much of the nutrition stuff that I see coming across the table, I see coaches shitting on, which I think is also the wrong move unless the stuff's just really stupid. But like one of the things that came up, so my wife is doing it's a throwback from back in the day, the Whole30 challenge.
Yeah.
Like everything's got to be no sugar, no keto. I was like, it's just straight whole ingredients. I'm sure it's a very healthy way to eat. I'm just not interested in it because it's too strict. Like, what, I don't get ketchup for a month? Get the fuck out of here, right?
Can't have that. Yeah.
But when I had mentioned something about that, a couple of people who were around me, like fitness people, and other stuff, go, oh, that fad from like years ago or whatever, that fad diet. And I was like, well, it's not really a fad diet. I think the whole thing is set up as kind of a little reset and know how you feel when you're not having all the sugar and shit. But that initial impression I thought was really interesting because I start to see a lot of coaches, influencers, whatever on the internet that are talking about anything from nutrition to training very decisively. Like they wrote the science and know the science. This turns into like everybody on nutrition now, if you've been around long enough, they're all fucking Dr. Fauci on the subject. They're just Dr. Truth Science. Like, no, this is the way the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
And the coaches, every coach that I've respected has attempted and done almost a version of almost every fad diet at some point, and should.
Certainly personally.
Like if you are a personal trainer and you're coaching people and the ketogenic diet becomes very popular, why would you not fucking try it? Especially if you understand how to really execute the basics of any diet successfully. Why wouldn't you go, all right, how can I do this and do this well? Right? How can I try? You should have some real experience to think of if you're a fucking fitness professional, or if you've only ever just counted your macros. And I did the 30, 40, 30 split on my macros forever. And I've only done that. And I've weighed everything, and you do that forever. That's the only thing that you have ever done. What if you ever get a client who just that process really isn't going to work for them? Now you just simply can't help them. And that's fine. But I just think your experience is so narrow that it makes you unqualified. Are you such a specialist You know what I'm saying? Like, are you really such a specialist? You can't try no carbs for a couple months and
Well,
figure that out. I've tried high carb. I've tried low carb. I've done nearly carnivore. Minus the ketchup, guys. I've done nearly carnivore before. I've done lots of hybrid diets where we're cycling carbs. I've done intermittent fasting. I've done midterm, like longer term fasting. I've done about everything that you can because, like, I don't know, it seems like something fun to fucking try out. I don't understand why everybody needs to be so decisive about it. And now that there's so much information out there, it's very noisy for everybody. And for your clients, you would think that all this information would be valuable to them. You would think that it would be helpful. They go, oh, great, I know how to eat. They could find a meal plan and a diet plan that would probably help them lose weight. There's 5,000 different versions, and all of them have science behind them now. They could find it on the internet today. But because they're all there and it's all confusing, and there's tons of content built around it because it's all semi-viral, it's all as useless as just fucking noise at this point. It's now white noise, and there's no way to separate the signal from the noise now. And now that's your job as a coach.
Because everybody starts at the same spot, right? You don't know shit about fuck, right?
Yeah.
You don't know shit about fuck, and you start right there. And the problem is that you don't know. Like, you don't know shit about fuck, but you don't like. So what you do is you try to learn, and as you learn, you become belligerent. It's almost like what you watch like kids when they learn shit, or like especially teenagers, like so passionately holding on to things that they know fuck all about, right? They heard about it
You ever
once.
listen to a 19-year-old talk about how the world works in economics and politics? Fuck
that,
you. Shut up,
right?
all of you. Yeah.
Right? But that's it, right? And we were all guilty of that. And eventually you get all the way around where you've either tested it, you've learned enough to where you realize, we don't know. Nobody knows shit about fuck. And that's, but you're on a totally different element of that whole entire like cyclical experience. And that's what I think gets missed out on, is that if you're still stuck on this train where all you do is listen to talking heads and you just form opinions without doing it yourself, you're still stuck in like that adolescence phase. Like, you got to just fully admit that eggs are bad, eggs are good, milk is bad, milk is good. Nobody fucking knows. So just make a goddamn decision for yourself. I think that the problem is your clients. I mean, how early
How are they going to do it?
Like, there's no way they're going to know.
And so, for example, with that, there was an article that got put out here in the Washington Post. When was this? This was like
this week.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that wall sits, isometric wall sits can lower blood pressure. And now that's getting out there to the general population that, one, what a great form of exercise for me to do that I can just do at my home with no equipment. Like, how do I word this? What, like a poison fruit to dangle in front of? Just do wall sits at home and your blood pressure, that it sounds as though bunches of other things are going to happen downstream from this. And it's like, no, you're probably not actually going to get any stronger. Your probably joints are not going to feel any better. You're not moving through any real range of motion. You're not going to build any muscle. You're not really burning hardly any. The gist of this too is that, like, a wall sit, and if you don't know what this is, you're probably listening to the wrong podcast, but it's a thing we used to have to do. Now, John, I think you did this in college as well, but we never did much of these in high school just because whatever. But like, we did a ton of them when we were kids. Like, when you're kids wrestling and youth sports and shit, it's just like, it was a way you just occupied a bunch of little bastards and didn't make a move. You just go against the wall sit till the fucking cows come home.
Well, what got used on me in college when I was playing football, and it's what I now program for football players because it works, is it's not a strength exercise. It's a mental exercise. Yeah. Like, that's all it is. So you're just mental toughness, which is, can you hold that position while because we used to have to do it like when they would just fucking blast you for a full hour and a half where it was just legs. So they've just like maxed leg pressed you to death to where they have to pull you out of the leg press machine. And then the next station after they blow the whistle is you and your buddy. One guy has to put a 45-pound plate and press the plate on the ground and do like essentially like the bear crawl, but with your hands on the plate. And you're talking like the rubber plates or
Yeah.
the metal plates
They're
that had
just
the lip
grinding into the ground.
on rubber ground, right? And
Yeah.
then you have to go push that the whole perimeter of the weight room and come back. And then your rest period is the wall sit. And now you wait for your buddy to go. Like it was just torture. And so any notion that you're going to put people into a wall sit with hopes of like lowering your blood pressure, like holy
God.
shit, you're just hoping to torture somebody.
And the way so many of these studies are done now are so um what's the word? Hyper specific
Mhm.
that like the amount of stuff I see this guy, and I think he does pretty good stuff. He does these really long form videos on like this muscle group attack, or this is the best angle at this exercise for don't you get this percent of muscle engagement. And then it goes to this other, well, if you just go to this grip and this one, it's actually 20% more engagement onto this muscle. And then and he goes through this whole thing. It's and if you take it all at face value, you're like, holy shit, I should definitely be doing this exercise this way because all these other ones are bad. But the reality is like over the scope of an entire workout or an entire person's training system, it doesn't really matter. And the reason you're focusing on a singular muscle group, like that's a level of isolation that most people don't fucking need either. When you look at
Mm.
studies that are generalized, that are about muscle gain, literally like strength gain by percentage, what people don't understand is this type of eating or this type of training frequency or this number of sets will gain this size of muscle, right? That's where they decide what's the most optimal way to train your entire system. But what they're
Yep.
doing, they're being very generalized in the claims, and they're using hyper specific measuring tools, which means most of those, this is how you get this percent stronger with this frequency training, is about like a single leg press.
Right.
Most of those things also are done by untrained individuals, which is like the fucking everything works. Wall sits will probably gain size for somebody that hasn't done shit in
Mhm.
whatever, but like it's none of it is any. And the thing is, it doesn't mean any of these things are necessarily good nor bad. They all
And
just are. And these attaching an outcome, all you have to do is say, here's thing that people know exists and decide good or bad. And I can reverse engineer any amount of research to say that it's great or that it sucks, depending on how I frame it. And then I just put an article out there and it just takes off. It'll work great.
but here's the thing I hated the most about this. On top of the fact that like it's okay, you're picking an exercise that is torturous, right? So this is the idea. But the argument that it will lower or suggests, right, that this type of exercise can cause a reduction of blood pressure better, right? Better than aerobic activity, better than weight training or hit training. Like, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit,
Yeah.
the idea of like isometric exercises, because that's ultimately what the argument is. And
Yeah.
they use wall sit as the example. It just is like, I don't know, man. Like, the idea that you get that particular, we all know the problem if you optimize,
For
right,
blood
for the
pressure outcome
part,
only over a
but
singular timeline.
and we're
Yeah.
not looking at the whole, like the whole concept, like it's a nerd's dream. And for me, I don't know. It comes down to where if you allow nerds and dorks to control this narrative, the problem is like, oh, well, isn't that interesting? And you can do that from home. So then it ends up being on like fucking Today or Good Morning America or whatever. And now grandma is trying to figure out how she's going to do wall sits at home.
When she could just walk or sit on the stationary bike and get 20 times the overall health outcomes other than that
Yes.
singular marker. It's crazy. Yeah.
So immediately when I saw the bullshit, I'm like, all right, what else can help lower blood pressure? Like, what are things that are scientifically proven that had somebody wearing a lab coat somewhere of what you could do? Tyler, do you know what was on my list? Laughter therapy. You could do laughter, lowers blood pressure. Pet therapy. So puppies, right? I would much rather hang out with puppies than do fucking walls, do
Hands
fucking
down.
wall sits. Right? Playing instruments, video games. Like, listen here. Have you ever has your son, you guys have you ever like dabbled in the VR stuff at all?
Not really.
The headset?
No, a couple. I've done a few. Yeah. I owned one of the
There's
original ones way back when,
so like
like the
my
8 years
kids
ago
got
version.
whatever a while, but like it was like the lightsaber game where you're breaking the blocks and shit.
Yeah.
But now they have like the downloadable, so you can get like a bunch of Queen songs. Like, there's nothing more fucking awesome than Freddie Mercury just belting out in your ears while you were just like destroying stuff that, like, it's just, it's, you get a way better, that's way more fucking fun. And that's where, for me, it was coming down to, where it's like
Yeah.
the amount of fun. And then, of course, like, you have some studies that show like you could drink whiskey, like
Yeah.
moderate amounts of whiskey or beer or wine or whatever lowers blood pressure. And that's where, for me, again, we comes back to this idea of like, if you're going to try and get people to be healthier, do anything that's going to improve their life, there has to be an element of like fun and enjoyment. Like, you're just not going to get the average person to suffer through a thing. And somehow that now is like exercise, or that's what it means.
And if you guys out there, gym owners, personal trainers, this is a concept you're probably already familiar with. Is like having to go, oh, this study, it now turns into fucking dealing with conspiracy theory information now. That's all this is,
Right.
like, that's been debunked. Like, you're out here just debunking stuff for people, and it sucks. So I do think you need a wide breadth of experience, and you need kind of, it's okay, I think, for people to have a strategy that's kind of like their own thing, right? My strategy for guys weight loss fits a few different things. Like, there's a process that I take them through that's mine. It's based on a handful of proven things, like scientifically proven things. But the thing that matters the most to me is, did it work for me and does it work for my clients? So these things are kind of all blended together in what makes the best 4, 6, 8 weeks of them starting. It's really is what that is, what that process is. It's not wall sits equal this, intermittent fasting equals this. So it's a fucking person in front of you. So my thing is, when someone comes in, when I do my online coaching thing, like, first thing we do is you would just get your portions in control. I put a narrow range on the types and things that you can eat and which times. Breakfast can be, here's a list of things you can have for breakfast. Pick one of these four and one of these four. And the quantities are kind of loose, but it gets them onto a thing. That's 1 week. Okay. The next week, it's a bit more abundant. So they don't kind of like feel like they're starving for 2 weeks, right? There's just a little bit more to it. Third week, the training gets really ramped up. By the fourth week, we start tinkering with a little bit of intermittent fasting. I want you to chill out with what you're eating in the breakfast. Let's not eat anything till afternoon. Why? Not really because of the science of intermittent fasting or your mitochondria. I don't give a fuck about your mitochondrial health. I don't care.
No,
Also, am I measuring that? Any coaches out there spewing shit about fucking,
it's the
like,
powerhouse of the
none
cell.
of you know. Yeah, everybody knows this. It's the only thing I know about cells, by the way. It's the only thing I know. But people go through all of that stuff, and when I drop intermittent fasting on them, it's because of that person. I think eventually just needs to learn what it's like and to feel better, that they're not hungry, that they're not full in the morning, and then feeling like your stomach is empty means you need to feel hungry, and that's not what it is. And frankly, when I introduce that point in the program is when people, one, start to make a lot of extra progress, not just in the weight loss, but they feel better. That's when I start getting messages like, bro, I don't think I'm ever going to eat fucking breakfast again. Like, I really like feeling light in the daytime, and it's easy to
Yeah.
keep my calories low, and it's easy for me to keep most of my protein biased towards the end of the day. And I feel like when I do my cardio, I'm not feeling like I'm digesting food. Now, is that an optimized system for someone trying to gain 20 pounds of mass? Probably not. But again,
But
this
let's be
is,
real. You can drink
do
way
any of
more
you guys gain
beer
20 pounds?
at
Yeah,
night.
of
Like, at night, I
course.
can drink way more beer if I don't have breakfast. It's
Yeah,
science.
it's science. Well, no, you can actually drink less beer and get the same effect. So again, you're not
So,
losing the calorie fight.
see,
But that system program then evolves from there, because it's about a person. It's not about science. I don't fucking
yeah,
teach science. I don't pass it. So, and the important thing is, all of these trends are going to come and go. So I'm okay, by the way, y'all out there, fuck with some wall sits.
yeah,
Go
do them if you're
for
not
it.
doing them.
Do
It's
it. Go
awesome.
for it. If you're doing whatever, I will not do one. I don't give a shit. It's just I'm not interested in it. I'm not going to go, wall sits are fucking pointless. I may have said something like that earlier, but I just don't lie. They're just not. It's whatever. But I don't believe that they're terrible, and I don't believe that they're fucking the best way to lower your blood pressure. So use them or don't. But that's kind of like what you have to take away from all this stuff. So when we get into the other things that we're going to get talk about here on this episode, um, that's kind of is, there's a take it or leave it, but just know that, like, this information's out there.
And
The
then
next one we want to get into is a big thing that's come out. This has always been the case. These allegations and things like this, that is this influencer, is this fitness person, is this celebrity on steroids, blah, blah, blah. And now they have to correct the term from steroids to PEDs. That's been a slow thing. And then it kind of starts to turn into like performance enhancing substances, because
It's like
then you get to the point where what is really performance enhancing and where's the fucking line? And people start to hold like athletes or regular people or influencers to a standard of nattiness
Yeah.
that is like, what is this WADA? Like, is this for the Olympics? Like, well, they're not training for the Olympics. Like, can this guy take a fucking peptide for his shoulder? No.
No.
You remove your natty status? Like, that's kind of
Yeah.
nuts, right? And where's the line between taking something for healing versus taking like shitloads of growth hormone and insulin to fucking gain mass? All right, well, there's a line, right? And who's establishing that line? But because this conversation is more open now with social media and with, frankly, just the vastness of the internet, so many people are writing articles about it, calling people out, making their own social media content, just piggybacking, roasting people who are like fake natties or whatever. There's some of my favorite accounts is this guy goes up to people at all these bodybuilding conventions and says, "Are you natty or not?" And the amount of people, one, it's the women, frankly, are the guys, most of the guys, there's a few guys that are insane for trying to pass it off. Like, just, I don't understand why that far into your career. I know why, we'll get into that. But so some of these ladies there that are like flat out got a voice like mine and got traps bigger than mine and are fucking lean and just round muscle. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And nope, Natty never done anything. And like, no, if I did, I'd be huge. If I did, I'd get so jacked. I'm all this way, Natty. Imagine if I was
Imagine if I
taking stuff, I'd
wasn't.
be unstoppable. Get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. But because of that, the conversation has had a lot now.
Yeah.
And it can't hide from it. And I think that's a good thing, by the way, because I think me being open about the fact that I had taken steroids when I used to compete in strongman, in a sport, by the way, that it's not cheating, that in the ultra heavyweight class, you'd fucking better be if you're going to try and make it very far, especially if you start competing in your mid 30s, like, better fucking get with it, right?
Yeah.
So did some sauce, got juicy as hell. And in return, now you kind of jack up your hormone system and you end up on TRT at 40, which is fine. I'm okay with it. I'd rather be on TRT than have marginally low T that's just low enough to where I can. So I'm totally fine with it. And I don't deny it to anybody except, by the way, children. When I coach kids, if I coach kids in the weight room that are 11, 12 years old, and sometimes it'll casually come up, they'll bring it up in some other conversation. I say, no, I do. I will absolutely lie to them about it because they're fucking children and they look up to me, and I don't want them to go at their age like, oh yeah, so yeah, he's jacked, he's a big guy, he's got abs too, like, so, and he said I don't want, and I believe that's how all of this starts.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff. It used to be where if you were selling supplements as a pro strongman competitor, the people would shit on you for it. I remember I had this conversation with the guys at Massonomics once about, like, Brian Shaw was saying this is the protein he takes, and this is the pre-workout he takes.
Yeah.
And it's like, but let's be honest, he may like that protein, he may take that protein, but the difference between that protein shake and the other protein shake, the other guy's stuff, is not near as important, near as impactful as the fact that, like, that guy is on massive amounts of gear.
What's the blend? Yeah.
What's the blend?
What's the
I
gear?
prefer, yeah, I prefer
The gear
casein
blend.
at night, actually, instead of a whey, because it helps me rest a little better. It's like, no, I think you're up all night with the fucking trend sweats. I think that's what's happening either way. But that, so I believe that's where it starts. I believe it does start because you don't want young athletes to think they need to get on early, and that's a big thing that I always talk about, with everybody who I have this conversation with. It's like, if you're 20, you just got no need, man. Like, get big. You can get big, like, really put on the size, and then it's easier to maintain without it, easier to maintain with it, and then you can really have something to work in. But there's just, you don't want to be on gear for 40 fucking years. You know what I mean? That's just not great, like heavy gear. So I do believe that that's where that thing starts, and that some of these people get deals with supplement companies and shit like that as well, and they can't maybe be saying it openly. Maybe that's part of the arrangement. I know that that's the reality. If I was sponsoring somebody and if I was selling them if I was having them pimp my amino acids or whatever, I can't have them going on and giving all this praise to trend. You know what I mean? That's just not a good move for my business. You know what I mean? And so,
and the fitness influencer thing has caused this to become way more of an issue.
yes, and because there's a lot of them faking it simply,
Right.
by the way, because they're selling, and this is the problem, they are selling fitness, they're selling coaching, they're selling online products, they're selling a process, not based on the process, but based on how they look.
Yeah.
And that is an important differentiator that I always have to, reconcile my own marketing with. Is that
Mhm.
like I will post a thing that's me like, yo, I'm fucking big and jacked. Like I'll do
Yeah.
that, but it's never you want to look like this. It's never you need to eat the
If
way
you
that
wanna
I
look like
eat.
me is not what you're
Yeah.
selling.
What I
Yeah.
tell everybody is first off, you're not training or eating the way that I eat, and you're not gonna look like me. That's very easy. By the way, most don't. Most the amount of times I've had people tell me they don't want to start lifting because they don't want to look like me, and I have to be like, yeah, well, that was never really in the cards for you.
Yeah, don't worry about it then.
Like,
You don't
yeah,
need to
sorry,
worry
yeah,
about it.
definitely don't lift then because the moment you start picking up weights, you're gonna look like me.
That's
But
how easy it was.
that's how it was that easy. I just, worked out
That
very consistently for 10 fucking years, took drugs for 3 of them, and have been on TRT ever since. Come on.
uh-huh.
What are we
Perfect.
talking about? And so that conversation, though, now is front and center, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's important that this be front and center because I think performance enhancing drugs cannot be an on or off, a good or bad, or red or green conversation. Can't be anymore, not in 2024, because there are things we talk about outcomes of, say, Ozempic, right?
Yeah.
I have a client who's going to start taking it. I have, and frankly, we've had the conversation that you're buying willpower. You need to understand that. As long as you know that, because we've tried. It's just I've gone over the food stuff, work with the kids on the food stuff, and the kids are doing the thing, but the parents like, no, no, and it's not working. It's not working because they're not doing it. They're telling me they're not doing it.
Right.
So
At
my
least they're
level of
honest.
frustration is like, I'm not going to work with you. He's like, well, I think I'm going to do this stuff. It's like, well, here's the deal. Like, here's what I think of it. I'm not the expert. Your fucking doctor is. Say what you will about them, but what am I supposed to argue with them? Right.
Right.
So I'll work with you as we go through this process. But here's how I understand the pitfalls to be. And then, yeah, I want to work with you on it. The problem is now I think this is the real issue going to be with coaches as this stuff evolves, is claiming your client's results more than
Mhm.
your own physique. I think using your own physique, your own drug history, whatever that is to sell your stuff, that's going to be washed out pretty quick because everyone's
Yeah.
going to be hit. That's the surface level conversation. But now I see more TRT commercials. I see it more ready available testosterone for men. I see it more talked about than anything else ever in the last year than I have ever seen ever in 10 years in this industry.
I would agree with that.
And
It's
I
everywhere.
don't believe it's everywhere. It is the conversation. Right. And so, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. As long as it's between you, your doctor, your family, whatever.
But you know what's really important is the exact same concept from the first part of the show is you have to have an opinion that's
Yes.
coming from somewhere other than having heard it just from somewhere else. Like you can't
Yes.
just say TRT is good because Joe Rogan says it's good.
Yeah.
You cannot say that it's bad because I don't know, whatever the fuck. Like it's
Yeah.
it makes people
And who are you to
balls
talk
shrink or
people out
whatever
of
it
it
is. Like
too,
it's
by the way? If someone's gonna go, I'd rather them work with me on their training than so it is optimized for with that situation. Because there are some
that's
things
it.
now that you get different advantages for. If they're just gonna go train the same way that they were training before, it's fine. Of course will help, but like let's make the most of this then. But the tricky thing, right? I really do pride myself on my clients getting results, especially weight loss guys, right?
Mhm.
And if I were to get into a partnership with the clinic that's doing a lot of TRT and
Or
prescribing the
Ozempic
semaglutide
and
or
all that
whatever,
kind of
right?
shit. Yeah.
That like, does that turn into something where I can't be like, this guy lost 150 pounds since he started working with me, right? That's
Asterisks,
tricky.
Barry Bonds, like a Barry
Tricky.
Bonds asterisk for the home run record.
And I believe that is the next evolution of this ethics conversation. And I think it's
Ethics is it.
important. And I think that it is the evolving ethics of fitness,
Yeah.
of the fitness marketing. And I think you can stay above board. And I think it's important too. And you don't have to make all your stuff about it. But I think every single one of my clients knows that I take testosterone because I don't want them deluded about the situation. And I don't
Right.
want them thinking that because I train one way or eat one way, like I'm coaching them with their process, not just them on my stuff. Because
Right.
that's just not the way that this works. There's big differences if someone's trying to gain size. I do intermittent fasting most days. I'll go 12 to 20 hours. I go probably like 17 to 23 hours actually is what I fast 4 days a week, give or take. Right.
But you realize, like,
And
it's just
but
let's
because
take
of
the
this,
obvious.
now though, I am not going to go immediately catabolic and just start cannibalizing my own muscle tissue when I'm
Right.
not fucking eating during the daytime. That's not how this works because my body is geared a little bit towards fucking preserving muscle tissue. More in my kind of hormone profile is going to enable that. So while you would lose a lot, I would be carry a lot less muscle. Okay, I'd probably still be not as certainly not as lean, but I would lose a lot more probably weight as well because my body's not just accumulating fucking size, and I can preserve the muscle tissue, and I will burn a disproportionate ratio of fat to muscle during those fasting periods. So it's easy for me on TRT because I don't have these big ebbs and flows of my hormone profile during the daytime, and that's different. But when I recommend it to weight loss clients, it's fine. I need you to have a big block of time, and that's more of a habit thing than it is a science thing. I need you to know what it's like. I need you to just not eat so that for a little bit, so that next time you're in a car ride, you don't need to stop at a gas station or stop at a drive-through and get 3,000 calories worth of bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the lesson there. And so that, but that conversation I think is important to have because if you're coaching people as they age, they are now subject to the highest amount of testosterone therapy advertising as possible now. This is like,
Mhm.
I would say it's as rampant. Maybe you and I are just men above a certain age, but I'm getting hit with two things: boner pills and TRT
Yeah.
on my ads, on my algorithm, like heavily, heavily.
Mhm.
So I'm sure all these guys that are struggling to lose weight, that are struggling to make a change, they see this as whether it's a shortcut, whether it's an enabling tool, whether it's just another step along the way. However, their perception is of it, they're going to go to a professional to get it sorted out. And I think you can still be there for them. And I don't think it's a conversation that needs to be kept under the covers anymore. I think it should be out in the open. I think people need to understand when they talk about this person took performance enhancing drugs. It's like, yeah, define that. Because I promise you
Mhm.
one thing as well, compared to most people out there, my diet is, I have not only do I take testosterone, I also take PEDs. I have a performance enhancing diet pretty heavily. Is that a problem? I take performance enhancing sleep every night too. Probably that exceeds the enhancement of anyone else's fucking sleep out there, right? I probably sleep better, more thoroughly, more consistently than 80% of the people that I interact with on a daily basis. Hands down. I'm a 9 to 10 hour a night guy. If I'm awake past 9 p.m., it's a goddamn fucking miracle. Okay. So is that a problem? No, but these are all tools in the thing. And I think it's very important. Where is the line? As research chemicals begin to evolve, there are things for like BPC 157 for injuries, joint injuries now. Like, it's a thing that a person can try that does that cost you your natty status? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And I don't give a shit. And I think the reality is do you just get to do what you're going to do? And if someone asks, natty or not isn't a line, I am on the not side of that line if it was, right? And the worst thing I think is people go, oh, well, I am now. I'm not taking
Right.
anything now, but I did. It's like, well, just, and again, I don't think it's like a scarlet letter that you have to wear. And I think, but that's what's important is right now it's good versus bad. Right now it's red versus blue. It's Trump versus Biden. It's natty or not. And that's that conversation now. There should be a broader spectrum. And I don't think there should be judgment along that spectrum. As long as the information is open and to the public. And it's, by the way, the other side of this is it's not everyone's business either. There is one important thing that I have learned from these years in the business is that people will come up and ask you that question who don't have good intentions, who have no fucking right to that information either.
Sure.
And I don't want to lie to them necessarily. I don't want to tell them yes either necessarily. I had a guy one time who's a fucking weirdo in the gym. This is a fun story. This guy's a fucking weird dude. And he's like, just goes up and like starts, there's something wrong with him, kind of. It's not like the fun or a clever kind of special. It's the type
Right.
of special where like still lives on his own, is probably fucking a super weirdo, you know. But this
Yeah.
person comes to me in the gym, starts jamming me up with some conversation I don't give a shit about, tries to show me pictures of when he used to be fit. You know what I'm saying? Like literally on his phone. I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm just trying. I'm literally tried to be polite all the way through to the point
Yeah.
where your presence starts to annoy me after 20 minutes of interrupting my workout. Then starts talking about some wrestlers he used to know, and those guys died young, but it was because because they were all on steroids. That's why they looked better than me, and blah, 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 and that's why they died so young. And I said, well, I mean, I think I think the kind of steroids kind of took the blame for a lot of those guys is lifelong fucking pain medication and recreational drug use.
Cocaine use.
Yes, what are we talking about here? Like this is the combination of fucking intense amounts of steroids, tons of prescription pain medication, cocaine, amphetamines, and lots of booze and a very rough lifestyle. Okay,
Yeah.
tons and tons of traveling. Like, and so I kind of said that very briefly. And he goes, "Well, you've never taken any of that stuff, have you?" And I flat out looked him dead in the face and I go, "Who the fuck do you think you are to think that you get to ask me that question and that I owe you the answer to that question?" I said, "I'm done fucking talking to you." Because the fact was, I say yes, what am I going to get judgment from this fucking clown?
Well, in
So
20 more minutes of conversation.
yeah, yeah, right. I don't care. And so
Yeah.
I went, "Dude, fuck you." Right.
Yeah.
Like, which means what is he going to take away from that? The answer is yes, but the answer is yes. And I'm not mad because you asked the question. I'm mad because go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Because I told you that you were wrong about the other stuff. But that's the reality. The conversation needs to be out in the open. And I know how this stuff starts, that it starts with just trying to, in the beginning, it's like Lance Armstrong thing, right? Lance Armstrong denied it in the beginning and it escalated. Once
Yeah.
you've denied it once publicly, you just have to constantly, they say that the truth shall set you free. And so it really is the thing where like you just got to get it out there. Just do it. I don't give a shit. If you do it, it's for the best. Lance Armstrong started lying about it. The media starts asking, he's got to double down. A few other people come out and start making direct accusations about it. What's he got to do? Like they're going to investigate. They're going to strip him of his stuff, whatever. So what's he do then? He has to sue that person for fucking slander or whatever, right? Now you're destroying a person who's not lying because you are.
Right.
And now in my opinion, that act is worse than anything he did lying about it and anything he did taking drugs in the sport that he was in. It's not that, but it's the lie escalates and defending the lie escalates to the point where, I don't know, these are lessons you learn as a kid, right? Every little movie, like every little lesson about fucking why you shouldn't lie. That's what it is, right? It snowballs into a thing that becomes way worse than the original lie. And all you wish you could do was just tell the truth about the thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. And this Mike O'Hearn.
Oh,
Mike
sure.
O'Hearn still claims that. You guys Google Mike O'Hearn and Google his age and Google the way he looks and Google how he's always looked. That's Mike O'Hearn defends his natty status. I swear to God, it's tongue in cheek at this point. Like I'm like, he's got to be joking, but he's really doubled down on it a lot for a lot of years. And I'm sure he wakes up every morning and he's up at 3 a.m. and very consistent in all the things he does. Because even though he's absolutely on gear, absolutely, he's more consistent, works harder than you, me, everyone who's listening to the show. So that's my thing with all of this. Kind of fuck off, because I promise he works harder than you and is more consistent than all of you. But the thing is, remember, his stuff kind of started out, and I'd be willing to bet that it was on the American Gladiators, right?
Yeah.
That was where he kind of popped through. And I would almost guarantee you, way back when the media didn't go that far, it didn't have that much reach, they probably didn't want you on a national television show. When the people start asking around, they want you to say, no, you're natural. They don't want professional football players saying they're taking gear. They just
weren't
don't
even
want
asking.
They weren't even asking.
Like the question wasn't even asked. They didn't ask Arnold when he went on like, "Hey, you're huge. You take a bunch of shit, right?"
I'll tell you this: I have read comments from dumb people on the internet that say that the reason they prefer Arnold's physique to now is because Arnold did it naturally. They're like, what are you talking about?
It's just cherry pie.
Not only that, those guys were on not just like gear, but they were on like a lot of it because they didn't have a lot of these other things that were a little more effective. That they didn't have to take the quantity.
Science was gnarly. Yeah.
Now, so on the O'Hearn thing, I think that's exactly how it went. Right? He just had to deny it once, and next thing you know, you're riding that ship all the way into the rocks. So we'll get into another one on the fitness business side of things. Alex, quote, Alex, I'm pretty sure isn't as rich as he says he is. And Alex, I'm pretty sure is a little disingenuous about a lot of shit. My favorite pretender poser, but he's still rich. Alex Hormozi. So Alex Hormozi fucking does a lot of stuff. He says a lot of things. He's done a very solid content marketing strategy, building a personal brand. Sold a business that basically thrived. Gym Launch thrived in the Facebook ads era, the peak heyday of Facebook ads, right? Where it just was the one spot where you could really get some action out of selling unethical bait and switch, just bullshit products, pushing absolutely some of the dumbest, most overpriced, uninteresting supplements through his brand running them all through a bunches of these gyms. He made his fucking cut. He made his money. He did his thing. Wonderful for them. I don't fault him for any of that, other than I think that it's as disingenuous of a business marketing strategy and as harmful to the end user, the clients, the gyms that did it. They made some money, but their reputation and the client success rate just fucking drops.
Right.
It's dog shit. It just torches out the reputation for these brands in there. That's why I do not see people 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years after working with Gym Launch talking like it's a good idea, like they liked it. Never, right? Now, all that aside, from the negative impact I believe that they have had in the fitness industry, that's what I believe on the business side of things, absolutely. All the things that you as an ethical gym owner who really want to be successful, but also do the right thing for your marketing and for your clients and not be all the reasons gym owners are afraid of sales is because of their bullshit. The types of shit that they're selling, pretend free stuff, purely bait and switch. All of the worst thing about the industry is kind of what they pushed. We know because we work with some gyms and helped them implement some of it before we were like, yo, what the fuck is this? Front row. Trying to make a person go have this sales conversation with a person is fucking absolute dog shit. You want to hear more about it? We'll maybe talk about it some other day, but it's whatever. That aside, there's an article that got put out. God, I got to find it again here, John. Where was this? This was the Daily Muscle and Strength magazine. This came out in speaking of keeping the lie, right? It came too early before he was as rich, as famous, right? This was 9 years ago. Okay. Alex Hormozi gained 35 pounds in 6 weeks naturally. I implore you out there, guys, go out there and look up this article. As a man who has gained a lot of size naturally, gotten leaner naturally, and a man who has gained a lot of size on a lot of gear, I am all of those things. Okay. This in 6 weeks, go look at this. Muscle and Strength, gained 35 pounds in 6 weeks.
Before and after photos.
If there was anything that I bet he could, because now I think I've heard him mention in some rumblings that he takes TRT now.
Yeah.
Okay. This is absolute fucking bullshit. It's the purest of pure fucking lies on this thing. It's crazy. And like most of the stuff that he's putting out now, there's some value to it in general if we're all going to be just open about it. Like much of the advice he gives on fucking business or just what now at this point, it's all just fucking fluffy shit. 90% of it's just stuff somebody else said that he's kind of repackaging, but it's whatever.
Sure.
But some of the stuff it's all valid. No information is new. So I'm okay with him just repackaging a bunch of stuff. Everybody is, so I don't care. But this is the purest of the pure fucking bullshit here. This is nuts. So I was like, yeah, he was training. You just have to look at this thing. It's to claim to have done it natural is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. I mean, so go look at this, go look at the pictures. And then what he goes through is punches in what his training split is and what he ate. Now they do the stuff. And I'm like, you do this and you eat this quantity and you're going to fucking have just absolute tits.
That's okay. So that's what's for me. That's where it all comes down to. Is not the tits.
800 grams of carbs, trained for 3 hours every day.
It is the implication that if you do that piece,
yes,
like that's the piece that gets you to victory. Like for me, it's like that is the principle of which all of this goes wrong, whether we're going to talk about business or we're going to talk about the PEDs or any of that shit. It's like if we're just honest up front, then it works. It works just fine. The information is solid. But the idea that you have, because for us is that we stand for the 99% of the population that just needs to be able to have a gym be what a gym is supposed to fucking be and not have it be this 1%er head up your ass scientific experiment. Regular humans are going to come across this. And you know who really comes across that shit, Tyler, is fucking teenage boys and early 20-year-olds.
Yes.
Because that's the issue. The issue is you have dudes that do want to do better. They are doing the research and they come across this and now they're like, oh, well, this is going to take me to the promised land. It doesn't work. And then the problem is that they do then go get mass gainer or they go and buy bullshit because now it's getting peddled on them. Like it just is. It's such a dirty snowball that affects because no one can be fucking honest about any of the things.
I mean, naturally is in the fucking article title. Like, that's the thing. You're not even trying to be like, hey, this is a thing that I did, and like you can do something like, yes, absolutely. It's not just disingenuous, you're fucking lying. You're lying. And this was back when just trying to build clout. That was back early, it's a decade ago.
Right.
This is a person who's been chasing clout since forever. Got it. Hustle's good. Good for him. By the way, I'm fine with it. I think it's okay that he has the money he has, but let's hold a person accountable to the things that they do. That's all I'm saying. So if the impact is on this article is you tricked a bunch of dipshits into thinking that they can do that, fine. Wonderful. But if that's the impact you want to have in the fitness industry, go fuck yourself. Right? I think the same thing is if your business you're under the guise of saying I want to help these gyms become more profitable so that we can grow fitness in our communities, and in return I'm running a bunch of pretend free ads to a bunch of pretend free fucking cookie cutter program that's a pure bait and switch offer. That's probably some of the most unethical, shady bullshit I've ever seen come through the fitness industry. Props to you, Gym Launch. Like, that's fine. Y'all got your money, so it had value somewhere, I guess. But that's fine. But there's a reason that during this era, how has the fitness industry come along? What have we done? The fitness industry now, what does it do? It takes more revenue than it ever has. It has continued to grow in revenue, yet our country is less fit than it was. So people like this are the fucking cancer on the fucking industry. That's the problem. That's optimized for dollars, optimized for lead generation, optimized for all of this shit. And these fucking Hormozy cunts come in here and they just extract. And this is how you happen over their era. Whatever amount of money he made and whoever gyms they helped, hopefully some of them made some good money and then got their ships turned right. We talked to so many gym owners, John, who like, yeah, then anyway, so or even gym clients, like my gym got involved with this company all of a sudden. I like am embarrassed to go to this gym because of the ads I'm seeing run that are local in my community. I'm embarrassed when somebody I know who knows I go to this gym responds and gets roped into one of these absolute bullshit fucking sales meetings here and then gets stuffed through some of the slimiest fucking supplement sales conversations ever. Just slipping through a fucking slide deck, a PowerPoint was, it's just all of the worst shit. Okay. That's what they've done. They took money from people. People aren't fitter. Okay. They did that and made a lot of money. That's great. But that is the issue with the industry over all of these years. Okay. Now, on the subject of things changing, perception changing, listen, I believe running a challenge is fine. I believe running discounted offers is fine. I believe running Facebook ads is fine. I think there's a way to do it that is optimized not just for you to extract money from your community in the short term, because your arrangement with these companies are short term. So they're only optimized to extract, and get the fuck out once your brand name is bullshit. And maybe once your brand is worth fucking nothing and you're tired of having all these conversations, they'll buy you out at a heavy discount once you're operating all their systems. That's the play. The play is to acquire you and take your shit and fucking tarnish your brand and fucking make it their thing. And they can continue to churn and burn. It's a cancer on the industry. And if it works, gets you some money, keeps you afloat, whatever, man. Whatever you got to do, I guess. But know that a lot of their tactics are predatory, not just on you or not just on your clients, but on you as well and your brand. They're to gobble you up. So fuck them, dude. Fuck these guys. It's fine, but fuck these guys. They're all slick. It's fine. They're slick, but they're not helping people get fit. They're not solving the problem that this industry has nationwide. It's just not. So it's not working. Do you want to be the solution or do you want to be a part of the fucking problem? That's what I ask you as a gym owner. And to go forward, is like all of these things change. Now that this thing was built, all of the clout that this guy's got is built upon success that they had back during Facebook's ads heyday, right? Facebook ads are less effective now than they ever were. Facebook's more engagement is less effective. It's more expensive than it ever was. Like, this is not the thing that's the most, shouldn't represent as large of a percentage of the pie now for your marketing strategy as it used to. It used to get by at 100%. You just put it all in there and it just would work, now that ain't it. It just ain't it. So that shifts because platforms shift, public perceptions shift. Facebook's not cool like it was in 2007, 6. It's just not, right? No. These guys start to running, and this is what happens with, you get a lot of these, no offense, y'all, you get all these ClickFunnels dorks. That's the world he's out of. These ClickFunnels dorks. Okay. So you get all these ClickFunnels dorks that come out of this space And what happens is they think that everything is Facebook ads now. But these are people that are essentially telling you right now that, like, so we got to start running ads on MySpace. You guys know MySpace is the juggernaut. If someone came to you and had that conversation right now, like, why aren't you running MySpace ads? You would laugh them out of the fucking room. Like, who the fuck is on MySpace, right? Well, who the fuck is using Facebook? Let's be honest. Who do you know? Like, what percentage of people you know that are like really active on Facebook? Very few. Of the
Mhm.
people you interact with on a regular basis, it's very few. So these platforms change, technologies change. And I think you get to the point where, John, what we do for this podcast was not available, us to just get on this and stream like this and have it record direct and us be able to just get the audio and get this. Tools change so much. I built a product when I first moved back from overseas where it was like online coaching, but it was really a process, step-by-step process for how to launch your podcast, what
Because it
platforms
was
I recommend.
involved.
Yeah, and what equipment is probably your best options, that are work for money and your setup, what factors to consider, what software to use, what platforms to use, how to edit, how to market it, right? How to make your clips back then. John, back then, in order to make clips with one, people were making clips. You still see people doing it. People for a long time made video clips, viral clips of their podcasts or whatever for the internet, and they would just put a still shot of a thing, and then it would just have the audio play over it. Well, that's terrible and
Yeah.
unengaging. And then it evolved to
It,
the little wavelengths, right?
Mhm.
Then it evolved to they do that, but then they'd put captions on it, right?
You
So
have to
then,
burn
but
them.
you'd have to go in order to do that, you'd have to burn them in, and I'd have to go through use like a voice to text software that I'd pay, but at least it got it close, and then I'd have to edit it, and then I'd put it on it.
Yep.
But a person's face is better engagement, so then you kind of have to do video. So then we do that. We start doing video, and what's my process for that? Well, we found out using that service is one way. The other way would be to go into Instagram, and when you go to post the reel that way, I actually think it was stories that would only do that then, or whatever.
Mhm.
But you go through and auto caption it, clean that up, then export that, and then you could use that for all the other platforms for TikTok and
Well, and that
such.
was revolutionary when that happened.
Game changer. I didn't have to
Yeah,
do it from
captions.
scratch.
Yeah.
Now all of it's done nearly automatic, and not only that, the software we use, like, it's not terribly expensive, and it just will go through the whole episode and just pull clips
Automatically.
optimized for impact, conversation value, different lengths. Like, that's a done deal. Editing was one of the most daunting tasks. If you ever had an issue with your audio quality, if someone was way loud, someone's way quiet, you had to get software to go through. You had to download, and you had to know how to do it. And so I did video walkthroughs of how to do it that are completely irrelevant
Yeah.
at this point. And now you go through and you just upload your file, and there's, Adobe's got one that just done. And
For
now
free.
it'll do it on the video too.
Mhm.
Spotify, you used to not have any video. Not now. You can just upload video to Spotify. Now your video podcast is on Spotify, and the
Yep.
audio gets pushed out to everything else. So now using any other platform other than Spotify for podcasters as your centerpiece feed, I think is probably foolish. So the game changes, everything changes, and if you are not equipped to evolve in your coaching strategy, in your nutrition philosophy, in your ideas of what products people want, right?
Mhm.
Group fitness comes, group fitness goes, cycling comes, cycling goes, fucking cardio, kickboxing, and boxing will come back. Promise. There's been a lull in that type of stuff, right? Group aerobics.
Yep.
It's been something like that's going to come back. I think that'll come back somehow, some way. Martial arts is, I still think, on the rise. I think they grow by 15% every fucking year for the last decade.
With that new
So
acquisition with WWE, like you have a whole new, you don't even know. They're about to go to Netflix. Like, it's for sure. If I was putting my money on black, my money would be in the martial arts space over the next
yeah,
decade for sure.
yeah. And public perception regarding what is okay. There are opportunities now, and you are going to have clients who are going to, in spite of everything you say, going to want to get on TRT.
Mhm.
Maybe just be the person who's there for them when they do. Be the person who's their bridge between whatever they're doing with their doctor and fitness and health and strength training and whatever that is. Same thing with the weight loss drugs.
Because human nature, Tyler, what do you do when you teach abstinence when it comes to sex?
It's going
Does
to get
everybody
weird.
just stop having sex? They stop. Obviously, nobody has sex before they get married, and it all works
Ever.
out.
Yeah, it's
No,
all okay.
right?
Yeah.
So if you choose to be the only abstinence person when it comes to Ozempic or TRT, you're just like, oh, I don't, it's like, well, then they will go elsewhere. People
Yep.
will go seek that out. And that's been our argument about when it comes to supplements and all the things is that you
Yeah, and
have
I don't
to.
and you don't have to force the most optimized pathway to success on them. Because let's be real, John, if you wanted to get as lean as possible and as ripped up, fine, let's get you on the sauce. Like, let's go
Right.
like heavy on the trend, run some clean. We're just gonna build and then we're gonna cut, strip it all back. Like, let's just do that. That's success at all costs, right?
Right.
But that's not necessarily the thing that we need to do. We need to find a balance, and maybe working with your clients to help them find their own balance, their own balance strategy works. My wife had a client who got on Ozempic right away when it came out, when they weren't doing the what's the word? They weren't doing what's the other pharmacies where they mixed, what's it called? Not combining. You understand the term I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the fucking word? There's regular pharmacies, so there's like the on brand Ozempic. It's not off brand, it's fucking, what's the term?
Generic.
Not generic.
Um,
Why do I
Talking
feel
about
like
the pharmacies that
branding?
mix the medicine, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to compounding. Is it compounding?
Compounding. There you go.
Yeah.
So they basically have to get it from a compounding pharmacy, and then they can
Yeah.
kind of set up their own structure from the doctor that way, instead of, because what Ozempic is on its own is it's a dosage and a frequency and a method of administration. That's what they have a patent on. So
Yeah.
they don't have a patent on the chemical. So you go with the chemical, less dose, less frequent, then here's your method of it. There's not too much crossover, they can do it. But that stuff didn't exist then. So I think this was like $1,000 a month this person was on. So they got
Yes.
on it,
That's right.
and
That's
it
right.
was not something that she was planning on keeping it be sustainable. But this person had just started working with my wife. So she dropped like 15 pounds right away, 20 pounds. And Megan was like really stoked and really proud of her and
Yeah.
whatever. And then she started putting it on after like
Just
2 months.
stop the
And
medicine.
she's like, what the fuck is going on here? And Megan's like struggling to have these conversations with, and that she doesn't tell Megan at all. That's what happens when these conversations are behind board.
Yeah.
It's like now she's keeping it too close to her chest. Now she's got no help. She can't tell you. And she put that weight on plus a lot, right? And then was really bummed out about it, and then stopped going to the gym, and then started coming back. The problem was for me is, thank God Megan never made any posts about this person's successes, because one, it would have blown up right in your face. Drop 20 pounds, then people see this person around town like 50 pounds heavier. Yeah, that's rough. But the fact is if it was just, hey, I'm going to take this, can I have a conversation about the risks and whatever before, and then how are we going to handle this? It's okay for you guys. These people's doctors are not working with them on nutrition throughout these processes,
Yeah.
whether it's on tea, whether it's on Ozempic, whether it's on anything else. They're not. They're prescribing, they're sending them out the door. They may never talk to them again, by the way, about it at all. It just is a thing that goes, right? And your job now is to be their liaison, be their concierge to
Exactly.
fitness. And now you've got this new vehicle that you're going to take there, right? This new vehicle's got a little extra horsepower. It's got some extra demands. The brakes are going to be be a little tighter. Like, it's going to be fucking nasty on the gas pedal. There's some different stuff that goes on depending on what you're taking, right? So you got to be the person who helps them figure out how to apply that to their fitness and make sure that it works with their life, instead of being the person they need to hide it from. Because then once it breaks or once something changes, they're going to just disappear. And then did you really help them? No.
And you know what I really like about that idea? It's almost like you can do this thought exercise in preparation for what you hear as a gym owner, as a personal trainer. You start to hear these things are becoming more popular.
Yeah.
What if, and then fill in the blank. It would be a way cooler version of Marvel's shitty What If series on fucking Disney Plus, right? What if I have a client on Tren? How do I help them? How do I make them as optimized as possible? What if, because you can feel it with anything. What if I have them on Ozempic? Fucking put it to the side, because put it to the side of how you feel about it, whatever. And that's not what somebody fucking asked you.
My first implication was me being hypocritical on this, because the moment you said, what if you had a client who was on Tren, I'd be like, try to get them off it. Still,
they're gonna do it.
That still might be the move if it's the worst.
I don't say it's not, right? Like, I don't say like,
you're right.
oh,
But I do think you're right. I think that is to do the thought exercise, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, it may be a thing where it's like, bro, okay, I'll be with you for this 6 to 8 weeks. And how are we getting off it? You have to make sure we're off of it. How do we? Because one, you don't take this up forever, and two, like, boy, is that a wild ride? That's fucking like, you're gonna get divorced. That's how that works.
But that's important,
right?
That's
absolutely right. I failed that test. Just now.
There you go. And I think it's
Let's just pull the
because
most extreme one, John. That's almost not
it's
even
sorry,
fair. That might
but
be the
it's
one
because
that should be out of bounds, but
they're the videos I enjoy most of the guys that make fun of being on it because there's a couple like
yeah.
guys that I follow that are bodybuilders that are just juiced out of their minds,
Oh, yeah.
and they just do mocking trend videos of them just fucking insane. Like anyway,
Yeah.
so but my point being is that in a world where people are not going to be dudes about anything, it's really important as if you're going to truly try and be the tip of the spear for the people that you serve and you want to be able to help them, you got to be that one place where it's like, well, I don't think doing a bunch of blow and hookers on the weekends is the move for health. If this is where we are, okay, then we need to
I'm
move
happy to have you
here,
here on
right?
Monday
Like it's
with
I'm
me.
glad to
Yeah,
have you here, right? And I want to make
yeah,
sure I keep having you here. And then this is a way we can start working with it. So, and not to be in the most extreme of it has nothing to do with health in that aspect. It's okay, if you're gonna do Ozempic, you're gonna do it. It's how do we optimize your nutrition so that you don't have all your shit get torn apart and now you don't have these problems that I see that people are having. It's because the doctors aren't going to, just like you said, they're not going to talk to you about those things. It's just
yeah,
they're going to give you your drugs, send you out the door, and they're not going to fucking talk to you about it again. And if people are doing something that is publicly unscrupulous, where they have to go under the radar, just like Megan's client, it's
mhm,
now we're kind of there's an element of embarrassment. There's an element of I don't want to talk about it because it's like
yeah,
it's all right. Hey, if your dick doesn't work, it's and you're going to take ED medicine. It's one of those things where you realize like blood pressure medicine. I argued with my wife about this. It has nothing to do with ED stuff, but it made me think of this. Is I know,
Hey,
right?
whatever, man. I'm here for you. We can have
Here we go. Here we go. Therapy hour. It's when I go to the dentist, they want you to list all your medications. And so my wife is in like the dental field, right? She's a dental hygienist by practice. And I go, I am not going to explain because if I've ever had to go get a massage, it's the same thing. We need to
yeah,
list the medications, and I'm on blood pressure medication. And I'm like, this is fucking stupid because I don't get lightheaded when I lay down. I don't
yeah,
need because I made the mistake once. The one fucking time I wrote down, it's like, well, what is this? It's a blood pressure medication. He's like, oh, well, then we have to avoid this, this, and this, and we have to be careful when you lay down. Like it was all this thing. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I don't want to be fucking talking to you about this anymore. So now I just, nope, totally fine. No problems.
yeah,
Completely healthy. And I told my wife, I did this at the dentist's way. She's like, I understand why you're doing that. She goes, but stop it. She was like, you need, because she goes, as a dental hygienist, she goes, there are things that then, if we know you're taking this medication, we know to be looking for X, Y, or Z that does happen, like in the mouth or whatever.
gotcha.
But if it's not
Yeah,
there, it doesn't cue us to look. And then we're just, oh, we're not even looking that hard for that. Because it's almost like it's they're breadcrumbs.
yeah.
They get dropped. So for me, it's always like, it's my fucking business. Don't goddamn talk to me about it. I don't want to be here anyway. And I don't want to fucking talk to you about this. But there is
There's a
that where, go ahead.
that almost embarrassment component where they try to hide it. It's I think for all consumers, I think it's a thing. We try to keep some information close to our chest, and there's because of it, though, the person working with you trying to diagnose something or simply trying to help you cannot help you because of it. It's a thing that would happen all the time here. John, we had this conversation. Your air conditioner froze up one time. You called me,
Yes, it did.
right? Now this happens all the time around here. Usually the first time it gets really, really hot. And every single time I go to somebody's house and the air conditioner is a frozen solid block of ice inside.
It was.
And I get there and I see and there's a brand new filter in the furnace. Now, if that's the case, that they had just changed the filter and it was filthy, filthy, filthy dirty, what the solution is leave it shut off, let the fan run till it completely thaws out. Most likely, your silly plugged furnace filter is the reason this happened. We got to get all the ice off this. Once it's thawed out, or you can run the heat. Once it's all thawed out, run it again. It's going to run just fine. It's going to be just fine. The problem is people don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So people say they don't want to say, I actually haven't changed my filter in like a year and a half. They don't want to say it. They're like, I fucking forget, dude. I'm a dirty boy. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm dirty. I'm lazy. I forget it. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like
Right.
it is so not important. But what happens is if I see that that's the case, You're going to pay my $90 fee to show up and tell you what's wrong, right? I don't even need to check anything else. If you tell me honestly, like, yeah, actually, it was absolute shit, I said, well, perfect. I'll just set it so it'll thaw out. You run it later. And if it gives you an issue again tomorrow, I'll come back and I won't charge you that show up fee. And we'll just start over again. But this gives you a chance to get out of this for $90. When they lie to you, you know what I have to do, John? I got to charge them to sit there for 45 minutes to an hour and a half and heat it while it thaws out. Then I got to check it. And then if there's anything that's even kind of slightly a little bit off, like could be a little bit low on refrigerant, well, now I kind of got to recommend that they fix it because we've gone this far. Now they
Right.
can make their own choice, but now they're in a situation where it could have been $90 and they won't think about it again for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you $450 now, probably. Like, just tell the fucking truth. Hormozy. So thanks a lot for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. Follow the show at Gym Owners Revolution, the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram. Get in the Gym Owners Revolution Facebook group. Go to gymownersrevolution.com. Follow me at Tyler Effenstone. That's Tyler EFF And John?
You can follow me at JBanksFL.
All right, guys. See you next week.